Bitcoin has gradually been going up since the beginning of February when it was around $42,000. It spiked up to just over $63,000 from $51,000 in just a 2-day window from February 26th to February 28th. Just before this spike, and overall around the same time, big names like Jamie Dimon, Jeff Bezos, Leon Black, Mark Zuckerberg, and the Walton family all sold millions and even billions of dollars of stock, some which were even the first ever sales of stock that they have been holding on for many years. So today I'm going to talk about why this could be the biggest cause of the rise of Bitcoin over this past month, and especially over the last few days. Alright, so we are going to start by looking at the chart just to see what kind of trend we have been looking at for Bitcoin. So by taking a look at this chart, we can see that we have been getting an overall uptrend on Bitcoin. If we take a look at this 5-day chart, we can see how much it spiked up. Right over here was Wednesday, February 28th. We were looking at around $56,000, and it was just going up and up and up, even up to this point where it has been around $64,000. When we take a look at the 1-month trend, we can see that there is just a whole uptrend the whole entire time. Back in the beginning of February, you could have bought Bitcoin for around $42,000, and it has just been going up and up. As you guys can see, there's a peak right there at around $48,000. Then it went down a little bit, but then it just spiked up a little bit. Again, it went down, spiked up a little bit more, and then it has been kind of consistent here, and then all the way to this point where it was around $50,000, $51,000, it spiked up to $56,000. And this is on Tuesday, February 27th, and an article was released that all these big names have sold their stocks prior to this, so that we can see it really does give us a lot of things to kind of think about. So at the same time, all these big names sold their stock that they have been holding on for a very long time. For some of them, it has been the first ever sale of their stock. And all of a sudden, Bitcoin goes up just like that in the matter of a 2-day window, up to around $64,000. So we can really see here that these big names, when they took out all that money, what are they going to do with that money? It's a lot of money. So chances are that they invested in Bitcoin, which is why we have this overall uptrend and this really big spike here, going up to $64,000 in just a 2-day window from around $51,000 on February 26th. Jamie Dimon stated that he does not believe in Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency, and that he called it a fraud. However, he did say recently that he regrets calling it a fraud, and this might just be the reason. You can't actually go inside of people's brains and see what they are actually thinking or what they actually are doing, if they're investing in Bitcoin or not, whether they even like it or not. So this factor definitely gives us a lot to think about. My prediction is that since Bitcoin went up so much all of a sudden, when it was just kind of steady, not really doing much, and then all of a sudden spiked up to $64,000, and at the same time all of these big names were pulling out so much money from their stocks, selling their stock, it is very likely that they then got some of that money and put it into Bitcoin, which is why we are seeing this really big spike. Because obviously it could just be a coincidence that just, I guess, at the same time when these big names were selling their stock, it just went up. There has been other reports of people saying other things of why Bitcoin has been going up. However, this is my belief, and no one really ever thinks about this or talks about this, so that's why I'm making this video to share my opinion about this, because it could very well be this reason why Bitcoin is doing really well right now. But yeah, if we take a look at this graph, there has been a lot of profits that could have been made if you bought Bitcoin in the beginning of February. As you guys can see, in the beginning of February, around February 5th is where it was kind of at its lowest point. It was around $42,000 if you purchased it back then and held it on all the way to the end of February 28th, and sold it for around $64,000. You would have made a really good profit in just a single month. Even if you bought it before the first big spike here at around $51,000, that is still a lot of money, especially if you look at it in the way that you could have made over $10,000 in just 2 days if you decided to buy right before the biggest spike here on February 26th and sold it where it was at its peak around $64,000. So Bitcoin is getting really close to when it briefly hit $69,000 in November 2021. However, this number plunged back $7,000 to $63,000 when people started taking profits. Anyway, back to the topic of today, why I believe that the big names that sold their stock have a big contribution to the overall rise of Bitcoin right now that we have been seeing over the last couple of days. So Jamie Dimon, CEO and chairman of JP Morgan Chase, sold $150 million in stock last week, which was his first cashing out since taking the top of the bank back 18 years ago. The next one is Jeff Bezos, who sold Amazon stock worth $8.5 billion in multiple transactions. Around the same time, Leon Black, co-founder and former CEO of Apollo Global Management, shed $172.8 million in stock, which was also his first ever sale of the stock. Mark Zuckerberg unloaded about 1.4 million shares of Meta stock worth roughly $638 million. The trust for the Walton family, here's to Walmart's founder, sold $1.5 billion in Walmart stock in February. So we can see some of the biggest names here that have been holding on for their stock for a very long time. Some of them which were the first ever sale of the stock since owning them, which accumulated to really big numbers here. So all of this money, it's really hard to think where they could actually store it. I mean, Jamie Dimon said he wanted to prepare for his retirement as it could be his last 5 years as the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, but only he knows what he wants to do with that money, and only he knows where he put that money. So we really don't know if he invested it into Bitcoin or not. It's definitely something worth thinking about. Maybe he did put that money into Bitcoin along with all these other names like Jeff Bezos, Leon Black, Mark Zuckerberg, Walton family. We can only predict that that is what happened because of the sudden spike of Bitcoin going all the way up to around $64,000. And people who bought Bitcoin back in November 2021 for around $69,000, they thought it would keep going up. They thought they would make a really good profit. And then it turned out it just plummeted all the way down to around $15,000 the next year in November 2022. People that sold it really made a bad mistake here because it was pretty obvious to predict that it would probably go up again because we've seen such big numbers on the Bitcoin here. And the people that bought Bitcoin when it was around the all-time high at around $69,000 and sold it when it was around $15,000 back in November 2022 can now really regret this decision. Obviously, it was really hard for them to make that decision because they didn't want to lose even more money. However, if you held that stock all the way to now, you can definitely be happy with this decision because at least you did not lose any money. And if you bought it prior to the all-time high, you definitely are now making some money. However, people should have predicted that the Bitcoin would go back up because we've seen such big numbers here. Anyway, that is going to be it for this video. If you guys did find this video helpful and interesting, please leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next video.